The sky was gray, heavy with clouds that seemed to press down on the earth. The air smelled of rain and fresh mud. A little girl sat at the foot of the marble steps leading to a grand white mansion. She was just 11 years old, her dress clinging damp to her small frame, her shoes muddy from walking behind a coffin earlier that morning. Her name was Emma. On her lap lay a brown doll with a ripped dress, its fabric still wet from the drizzle. Beside her was an old suitcase, cracked at the edges, its lock broken, clothes spilling out into the dirt. Her father had been buried only hours ago. The soil on his grave was still fresh, the flowers still heavy with rain. But instead of comfort, Emma found herself cast into the cold. From the porch above, her stepmother stood with a glass of wine in hand. Her name was Carla. She was beautiful, but her beauty was sharp, like a blade. Her lips painted red, her long green gown flowing like she was hosting a party rather than mourning her husband. Next to her stood her second husband, a man with a round belly and a cruel smile. "Take your things and go." Carla's voice rang out. "You don't belong here anymore." Emma's voice shook. "But Daddy said this was my home. He promised." Carla laughed, a laugh without warmth. She tilted her glass and let the wine pour out. It splashed over Emma's suitcase, staining her clothes inside, dripping down the steps like blood. The girl bent her head lower, clutching her doll as if it could shield her from the humiliation. Tears rolled silently down her cheeks, mixing with the rainwater. Across the street, neighbors stood and watched. Some whispered, some shook their heads, but none moved closer. They pitied the child, but fear of Carla's sharp tongue kept them silent. Carla raised the silver bucket beside her. With a sneer, she tipped it. Cold water poured over Emma's small suitcase, soaking everything, washing away what little she had left of her father. "Pathetic," Carla muttered. "Even your tears are wasted here," Emma whispered again, this time so faint it was almost lost in the wind. "Please? I don't have anywhere else to go." Carla's new husband smirked. "Then you'll learn quickly, girl. Life doesn't care for the weak." Emma shut her eyes. For a moment she wished she could sink into the ground, disappear into the mud, vanish with the rain. Then, footsteps. They came fast, heavy, purposeful, echoing across the driveway. Heads turned. A tall man in a charcoal coat strode in, his presence commanding attention. His shoes struck the stone with authority. His face carried fury like a storm. "That is enough," his voice thundered. Carla stiffened, her grip tightening on the empty wine glass. "And who do you think you are, barging into my home?" The man did not answer her immediately. He knelt beside Emma, his large hand picking up the wet doll that had fallen to the ground. His eyes softened when he looked at the girl's tear-streaked face. "Are you all right, little one?" he asked gently. Emma nodded faintly, though her lips trembled. The man rose, turning toward the porch. His name was Richard Hayes, a respected millionaire, known for his wealth, but more known for his honor. His voice cut through the air like steel. "You threw this child out on the day of her father's funeral? She is nothing to me," Carla snapped. "This is my house. She will not stain it with her presence." Richard stepped closer, his voice calm but edged with fire. "This is not about your house. This is about a promise." Carla frowned. "What promise?" Richard looked down at Emma. "Your father entrusted me with something very precious. He made me her godfather. If anything ever happened to him, I was to step in, not out of pity, but because she is family." Emma gasped. Her father had never told her. But the certainty in Richard's eyes filled her with fragile hope. Carla's husband scoffed. "You cannot just take her." Richard's jaw tightened. I can, and I will, by law, by promise, and by conscience." The neighbors, who had stood in silence, now began to murmur in approval. Courage spread through them like a spark in dry grass. Some even clapped softly. Richard stretched his hand to Emma. Slowly, she placed her tiny fingers in his. He lifted her gently, shielding her under his coat. For the first time since the funeral, she felt safe. Carla shrieked, "This isn't over. You'll regret meddling in matters that don't concern you." Richard turned his head, his eyes like stone. "Protecting a child from cruelty is never something I will regret. But abandoning her, that is what your soul will carry forever." And with that, he led Emma away. Weeks passed. Emma's life slowly healed under Richard's care. His house was different, warm, filled with books and music. She had tutors for her schooling. She had meals that filled her stomach. At night, Richard read her stories before bed, reminding her she was not forgotten. He never let her feel that her father's love was gone. Instead, he told her that love had simply found another way to reach her. But shadows of the past lingered. Rumors began to spread. The court launched an investigation into Carla's affairs. It was discovered that she had forged her late husband's signature, stolen property, and transferred bank accounts meant for Emma into her own name. The truth unraveled like a rope pulled too tight. On the day of judgment, the courthouse was filled. Carla, once draped in jewels, now stood pale and trembling. The neighbors who had once bowed to her turned their faces away. Some even whispered insults as she walked past. Emma stood tall beside Richard, her doll still in her hand, but her head lifted high. No longer a broken child, but the rightful heir her father had intended her to be. The judge's voice rang out. Carla is guilty of fraud and theft. All assets stolen are to be returned to the rightful heir, Emma Williams. Gasps filled the courtroom. Carla staggered, her pride collapsing like a broken pillar. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed. But the cameras did not capture Carla's rage. They captured Emma's steady walk, her small hand firmly held in Richard's. Carla became a woman known not for her riches, but for her shame. She lost her mansion, her friends, and the respect she once commanded. Her name became a warning whispered in the city. Pride and cruelty will always meet their end. Emma, on the other hand, gained not just wealth but dignity. She had lost her father, but she had not lost his love. Through Richard, that love had carried her into a future brighter than she imagined. And so the little girl who once sat alone in the rain with nothing but a doll found her place in the world again. Cruelty had tried to crush her, but a promise stronger than death had raised her higher. She was no longer the child on the steps. She was Emma, the daughter of love, the heir of justice, and the proof that hope can rise even from the coldest ground. This is the end of this story. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring and emotional stories like this. Your support means the world to us. See you in the next story.